Late in the evening, Abigail is rehearsing ballet in an empty theater. Meanwhile, a gang of criminals is preparing to carry out their plan. The hacker successfully disables all the security cameras in Abigail's house, while the sniper positions himself on the rooftop. Unaware of the impending danger, Abigail leaves the theater and her driver picks her up, oblivious to the fact that the criminals have planted a tracker underneath the car. As soon as the car starts moving, the kidnappers spring into action. The hacker unlocks the doors of Abigail's house, allowing 3 of the criminals to stealthily enter her bedroom and hide behind the furniture. Realizing that they are planning to kidnap a child. One of the women objects since she usually avoids involving children, but the others insist that she must comply. Shortly after, Abigail arrives home and lies down on her bed, providing the criminals with the perfect opportunity to strike. One of the men attempts to restrain her, but Abigail fights back and stabs his hand with a pencil. The other man takes over, covering her mouth as he captures her, while the first man refrains from harming the child due to the woman's intervention. Eventually, the woman injects Abigail with a sedative to make her fall asleep. Meanwhile, the rest of the team waits outside and alerts the others in the house about an approaching car, while the sniper keeps a watchful eye on the incoming vehicle. The trio quickly places Abigail in a bag and escapes through a window. They navigate through the garden and regroup with the sniper, but the alarms suddenly activate, forcing them to flee. Fortunately, the remaining 2 criminals arrive just in time to pick them up, allowing them to escape without any issues. During the getaway, they monitor Abigail's pulse to ensure her well-being and blindfold her. As they approach traffic, the hacker instructs the driver to take a different route, but the driver abruptly turns and hides the van behind a large truck. Eventually, they arrive at their destination, an old abandoned mansion located outside the city. There, they meet Lambert, the individual who hired them. After restraining Abigail by handcuffing her to a bed, the story continues. Lambert reminds the team of the guidelines. They are not allowed to disclose any names or personal histories, and they should refrain from inappropriate behavior. It's around-the-clock duty, as they are tasked with looking after Abigail until her wealthy father delivers the $50 million. Lambert keeps the identity of the father a secret, but he does confiscate everyone's phones to prevent any tracking. Before departing, Lambert assigns each team member a code name inspired by the Rat Pack. Following this, the team indulges in the assortment of beverages available. Joey declines to share her candy with Dean, who attempts to cleverly deduce everyone's background but falls short. When Joey taunts him, the others wager some money to see if she can do better. By observing their mannerisms, attire, and personalities, she accurately guesses all of their pasts. Frank was once a detective, Peter is a bumbling mob enforcer, wealthy Sammy is a hacker doing this for amusement, Rickles is a former Marine sniper, and Dean is a sociopathic driver. In turn, Frank deduces that Joey is a recovering addict. Joey then checks on Abigail, who complains about the tightness of her blindfold. Joey adjusts it and leads her away. After removing the blindfold, she realizes that the handcuffs are causing her pain, so she decides to reposition them in front of her. Abigail is crying, and Joey reassures her that they won't harm her and that they only want the money. To solidify their trust, Abigail and Joey make a pinky promise. In return, Abigail reveals that they have made a mistake because her father doesn't care about her. As Joey prepares to leave, Abigail apologizes for what is about to happen to her. Concerned, Joey rejoins the group and informs Frank that Abigail's father might be a violent man. Frank dismisses it as an attempt by Abigail to manipulate Joey's emotions. However, when everyone is distracted, Frank secretly checks on the child and is shocked to find her without the blindfold. He quickly covers his face and points his gun at her until she swears that she didn't see him. Frank then interrogates her until she reveals that her father is Christoph Laser. Panicking, Frank rushes back to the group and announces that he is leaving. The others demand an explanation, and Frank reveals that the girl is Christoph Laser's daughter, a highly dangerous and influential criminal mastermind. Joey and Rickles are also familiar with the name and express their concern. A heated argument arises regarding the next course of action, but ultimately they decide to stay and collect the money. Their plan is to use the money to escape and start a new life far away. They agree to remain vigilant and keep all doors closed. Joey, while exploring the house, hears a noise and investigates, only to find that it's just an open window. As she opens it fully to stop the noise, she notices an ancient statue depicting a father and child. Suddenly, she bumps into Rickles, who attempts to flirt with her but fails. They both confide in each other about their lack of trust in the others and agree to watch each other's backs. Meanwhile, Sammy discovers a room with a television and is startled by a presence behind her, only to realize it's Dean playing a prank. Dean then tries to flirt with Sammy, but she angrily kicks him out. Later, Dean comes across a sleeping Peter and decides to draw a crude image on his face. He continues to explore the house and enters a dimly lit corridor filled with numerous old photographs. They quickly realize that the girl bears a striking resemblance to Abigail. Moving on, he heads down to the basement kitchen, only to witness a door mysteriously opening on its own. Confused, he cautiously enters the room and is startled by a rat. As he tries to leave, an unseen force grabs hold of his legs and pulls him back. Sammy, hearing his screams, rushes to the basement and discovers Dean sitting at the table. However, as she approaches him, his head suddenly drops and Sammy lets out a horrified scream before vomiting. Soon, the rest of the group joins them in the basement, and they all agree that Sammy couldn't have possibly exerted that kind of strength. It reminds them of the infamous hitman Valdez, known for his association with Lazar's gang. Several years ago, 3 high-ranking members of Lazar's gang were apprehended by the FBI. The night before their trial, they were securely held on the top floor of a heavily guarded hotel. However, the next morning, the FBI discovered their decapitated bodies with missing organs. There was no possible way for anyone to enter or exit the room except through the door on the ground floor. Growing increasingly concerned, they decide to check on the girl and find her unharmed. In the room, Rickles is still scared of Valdez and wants to leave, but when he opens the front door, they're shocked to discover another barred gate. Peter tries to push it open to no avail, and this triggers a security system that covers all the windows, meaning the group is now stuck inside. Joey concludes this is a trap and Rickles runs to check on his weapon, only to find it gone. Joey rushes to Abigail and asks if she's seen anybody else besides her and Frank, but Abigail swears she hasn't. She also shares that Frank threatened to harm her, that he said he worked for her dad, and that his real name was Valdez. Afterward, Joey meets with Rickles and they both share what they know, concluding it doesn't make sense. They agree to look for a way out, but as Joey tries to leave the room, she hears a noise. Rickles is standing rather awkwardly, so she goes to check on him and is horrified to discover that he's been severely injured. His dead body falls in her arms and she puts him down before rushing downstairs. A furious Joey aims her gun at Frank, accusing him of being. Valdez and Rickles are engaged in a deadly confrontation. Frank also draws his gun and accuses Joey of allowing Abigail to manipulate her. He implores Peter to take action against Abigail, prompting Peter to enter the room with the intention of killing her. However, before he can shoot, Joey arrives and swiftly disarms him. Sammy and Frank join the scene, leading to a heated argument. Meanwhile, Abigail effortlessly frees herself from the handcuffs and stands up, revealing her true identity as a vampire with a ballet move. Abigail pounces on Peter, ready to bite him, but Frank shoots her down. To everyone's astonishment, Abigail quickly recovers from the wound. Joey attempts to shoot her as well, but it becomes evident that bullets have no effect on her. In a panic, they all retreat and lock the door. As they discuss their next move, they come to the realization that Abigail was actually Valdez all along. The doors are secured with impenetrable locks and thick shutters, making it impossible to break through. Sammy lacks the necessary equipment to hack into the system. Tensions rise, and when Peter suggests they take a moment to calm down, Frank seizes him by the neck, threatening him to stay silent. Eventually, Frank and Joey grab pool sticks to fashion makeshift stakes. While Sammy searches for garlic in the kitchen, Joey refrains from helping as she believes harming Abigail would anger her father. Once prepared, the trio hurries to Abigail's room only to discover it vacant. Suddenly, they hear music and follow the sound to another room where they catch Abigail dancing with Dean's body. Initially feigning innocence, Abigail attacks Sammy when provoked. Despite Frank's failed attempt to intervene, Peter manages to lift her momentarily before being overpowered. Abigail snatches the cross from Peter's necklace and uses it to draw blood, proving the crosses have no effect on her. When Frank tries to stab her, she swiftly disarms him and injures his leg instead. Defeated, the trio retreats downstairs where Joey assists in treating their wounds. She recalls the successful injection used during Abigail's abduction and suggests using the spare one. They agree to split up in search of the girl. The first step is for Joey to inform the rest of the group through their earpieces so that they can coordinate the surprise with the syringe. The group begins searching the house, and Sammy takes a detour through a grimy corridor, where she is startled by a swarm of bats. This startles her, causing her to fall into a pool filled with decomposing bodies. To make matters worse, she has to crawl over the bodies to escape. Meanwhile, Abigail surprises Peter, who panics and locks the door in fear. However, Abigail manages to break down the door and continues to chase after him, gracefully moving with ballet-like steps. Peter runs as fast as he can until Frank unexpectedly opens a door and accidentally knocks him off balance, causing him to fall from a railing. Abigail then turns her attention to Frank, pushing him down the stairs and sitting on top of him. Joey seizes the opportunity to try to inject Abigail with the syringe. But Abigail strikes her hand, causing the syringe to fly through a locked gate. Sammy intervenes by grabbing Abigail and pulling her away, but Abigail retaliates by biting Sammy's arm. In the midst of the chaos, Abigail grabs Frank's leg and starts to fly, but Peter tackles her, causing her to drop Frank. Peter holds Abigail down while Joey manages to retrieve the syringe and swiftly injects Abigail with the sedative. As Abigail passes out, she makes menacing threats and hurls insults at Joey. Sammy becomes anxious, wondering if she will transform due to the bite. Shortly after, Abigail regains consciousness, only to find herself trapped in an elevator. Joey offers her a deal, promising to release her if she reveals how to escape. Instead, Abigail confesses that she orchestrated everything and reveals that Lambert is working for her. She even knows the true identities and backstories of each member of the group. Sammy's career began by embezzling money from her wealthy parents' bank account, eventually targeting a high-profile individual. Peter served as an enforcer for a criminal organization and betrayed his crew. Frank infiltrated a specific crime family while working as a detective and became enticed by the allure of the illegal lifestyle. Joey, a former army medic, was dismissed from her position due to her addiction to medication. She left her son with his unfit father to pursue a different path. The doctor was working for some very suspicious individuals. One day, she accidentally killed a member of a gang while attempting to remove a bullet. It turns out that everyone in the group had wronged a man named Laser or his gang in some way. Joey claims that Abigail kills her father's enemies in order to gain his love. Abigail didn't immediately kill them upon their arrival because she enjoyed toying with them. She proposes that if they release her, she will spare the lives of 2 of them. Frank suggests killing her, so Abigail modifies her offer to only save the one who sets her free. Peter and Joey both draw their guns as they argue that Abigail is lying. Despite their warnings, Peter tries to free her and Joey shoots him. The rest of the group leaves, leaving Frank behind to keep watch. Once they are gone, Frank offers to release Abigail if she tells him how to escape the house. Abigail reveals that he must pull a book by Agatha Christie in the library to open a secret door. Frank thanks her but refuses to let her go. However, Abigail easily breaks the door and approaches him. Just as she is about to reach him, Joey arrives and breaks the wooden planks off a window, allowing sunlight to enter. The sunlight instantly burns Abigail's hand, causing her to retreat into the shadows to regenerate it. Joey and Frank run away while Abigail hides. The entire group makes it to the library and stays under the sunlight coming through the high window that Joey had opened earlier. Sammy is relieved when nothing happens to her, thinking that she won't undergo any changes. Frank pulls the book that Abigail had mentioned, but nothing happens because she had lied. While Frank throws a tantrum, Joey attempts to break down the wall without success. Joey is becoming increasingly anxious as she has run out of candy. She explains to Sammy that she left her son to get clean and planned to use the money from this job to start over with him as a reset. Hearing this word gives Sammy an idea: if they can find the power source, she can short-circuit the locks. The team splits into 2 groups and searches the house. Abigail suddenly resumes playing music, taking control of Sammy with a bite. She swiftly transforms into a vampire and attacks Peter, biting his neck. Abigail communicates with him through Sammy while she continues to feed and ultimately kills him. Abigail then amuses herself by making Sammy dance like she does. When Joey and Frank show up, Sammy conceals her face. However, they become suspicious, prompting Sammy to reveal her transformation. The duo immediately flees, with Sammy in pursuit. They reach the library, where Abigail, using Sammy's voice, explains her hatred for the room as it was where her father turned her. Joey grabs a tray and reflects sunlight on it, causing Sammy's body to explode. A secret door opens at that moment, and despite Joey and Frank's suspicions, they decide to venture through it. After traversing a corridor, they discover the mansion's control room and Lambert, who is also a vampire. Lambert seizes Joey by the neck as he provides an explanation. Abigail turned him 2 years ago upon discovering his involvement in Frank's infiltration of the gang. She also issued threats against his family, compelling him to bring all of her father's enemies to her for amusement. Having already informed Laser of the situation, he is en route to the mansion. Lambert's intention is to eliminate both Abigail and her father, offering to turn Frank in exchange for his assistance. Frank agrees, prompting Lambert to render Joey unconscious and bite Frank. Subsequently, Lambert instructs Frank to consume his blood, leading to Frank's painful transformation into a vampire. Following this, Lambert instructs Frank to feed on Joey, but Frank instead impales him with a stake, causing Lambert to explode. Abigail arrives at that moment and attempts to attack, only to be overpowered by Frank, who proceeds to drink her blood. Joey takes advantage of the situation to deactivate the security measures and retrieve her phone from the control panel. However, upon running down a secret corridor, she discovers that the exit is locked. As Frank finishes feeding on Abigail and discards her body, Joey leaves a heartfelt message for her son on his voicemail. Frank locates her and forcefully pushes her back into the library, where he proceeds to throw her against the furniture. Despite Joey's attempts to defend herself, her efforts prove futile against a vampire. She then seizes him by the neck and hurls him to the ground, only for Abigail to intervene just in time. Weak and unable to defeat Frank alone, Abigail implores Joey to assist her in killing Frank, promising to release her so she can reunite with her son. As Frank approaches them, the two girls join forces to confront him, but their combined efforts are no match for his strength. Of their agreement, after Abigail is subdued, Frank removes Joey from the stake and bites her neck before tossing her to the ground. When she regains consciousness, Frank uses his vampire abilities to compel her to grab the stake and pursue Abigail. However, Joey is feigning compliance, so she turns the tables by shoving Frank, allowing Abigail to pounce on him. She engages in combat with him once more, explaining that the powers take time to fully manifest, preventing him from controlling or transforming Joey yet. While they are preoccupied, Joey seizes the stake and brings Frank down, joining forces with Abigail to impale him and cause him to explode. Following the ordeal, Joey expresses concern about potentially transforming as well. But Abigail reassures her that it won't happen since Frank is deceased. True to her word, Abigail releases Joey and instructs her to locate her son. Suddenly, someone grabs Joey's shoulder. It's Abigail's father, Laser, who reveals he has had many aliases over the years. Despite his initial intent to harm Joey, Abigail intervenes, citing Joey's past assistance and loyalty. Laser expresses his gratitude by kissing Joey's hand and allowing her to depart. Joey hurries back to the van and discovers she still has a lollipop remaining, which she enjoys while driving away.